So hi guys, we've got another good podcast for you today. James Dawes here from Sports Recruiting USA, and I'm joined by a mate of mine and an SRUSA client, Aedon Kyra. Aedon, how's things?
Hello. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, sir. So just wanted to start, Aid, sort of taking you back prior to America and where you're at now. We'll go into that a bit later on. Do you want to just tell us a bit about football growing up, you know, where you were playing and how things went when you were younger?
So when I was growing up, I had my older brother. So he was a year older than me. So I always played like a year up with him. You know, we just played locally for clubs like Five Dock. That was the local club that we played for when we were younger. Then we left there when we were like 10 years old and went to Inter Lions. And then like, I don't know, like obviously because I was a chubby kid, like not many coaches had faith in me, but I decided to take a leap and go to a different club. It was a bit further away from home, but the coaches believed in me. I think that was like one of the changing points, like having a coach that actually believed in me. So that's when I started to like get skinnier and take soccer more serious. And I started to lose weight and obviously like shoot up, get taller. And I ended up like, I never really signed. Like I was always the kid that at school that never really played for the good soccer team, but loved soccer. So I ended up when I was 13, like all my friends were signing for like NPL 1 teams, which is the highest level in Sydney. And I signed at NPL 3. But I did 2 years at that club and I won 2 like finals, and then ended up climbing up to NPL 2 when I was 15 and playing for like one of the best, like one of the richest history clubs in probably like Australia, which was Canterbury Berries. So I ended up doing 2 years there, and we had an average year the first year, and then we made a final that the next year. And like I was captain of the teams at that time because like I was playing more like a center mid role. So like I never really played up front. Like, and I had a pretty good year at Berries in my second year. I was scoring a lot of goals, like setting up a lot of goals from playing center mid. And then I ended like the pressure was too much from the coach. He was giving me too much pressure. So like towards the end of the year, I said like, I don't want to be the captain anymore. Like thank you. And then after that, we parted ways, and I ended up finally like I ended up getting to NPL 1. So it took me like 4 years to climb up the ladder. So I went from NPL 3, 2 years, NPL 2, 2 years. And then I finally got to NPL 1. I went to Rockdale City Suns, and like that was just like a blur of a year. Like I got injured, had like an ankle problem, some tendonitis in my ankle. So I ended up, me and my brother both signed there. And that was like the first time we played together. Like a year at Bankstown Berries, I was playing in, you know, it was hard because like that was when I started to sort of flourish as a player, was that year.
Yeah,
And
I want
like
you say you didn't. Do you think there was a defining moment for you where you started to get serious with soccer and think, you know, I can make something out of this? Or was it just like you've talked about your progression there up to the highest level in, you know, in Sydney and stuff, but did something just click, you know, one day, or was it a case of just over time?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, so when I was at Bankstown Berries in my second year, I was under 15s, and like I was playing for like the 18s with my brother's team. So I was like skipping 2 years, and like it was hard because like I would play for the play a game for the 15s, and then I would go into the 18s and I would play a full game, and my brother would like, I would get 90 minutes and he wouldn't get much. And like that was it was hard for me as a brother, like to like, because obviously my brother loves soccer too. So like until like he had an ankle injury like when we both went to Rockdale, and he was out for a year, and he came back, and then he had a heart condition, so he stopped playing. So like I think like that year at Berries, I had these these two brothers, Tas and George Marcos, and they really believed in me, and they actually showed that they believed in me and brought me up to play with the 18s. I was playing with like some really good players, and then after that, it's weird because like the defining year for me was only recently.
Okay.
Like so when I played at Sydney Olympic, I was still playing like weird positions. Like I was playing left back for the first year I was there.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like then I moved up to the next year I was playing center attacking mid, and literally like 3 games before the grand final, because it was like obviously that was the year that I didn't play because my best friend passed away. So like 2016, I didn't play much, and I had a friend. My parents reached out to a few people because they wanted me to play, and I like was like a bit iffy about playing because I didn't really want to. And obviously Sydney Olympic was a special club to me because that's where me and my friend met. And so I decided like I would go back to the club, but I only played like 3 or 4 games with them in 2016. So it was weird because like it was like I got to NPL1 and it really wasn't all that I thought it was. The first year I was injured. Second year I played, and then the third year I played like 4 games because I was going through stuff with my friend. And like I think that sort of was a defining thing for me. Like we got to the final, and like I don't know why my coach started playing me up top for like the last like big games, semi-finals and the final.
Yeah.
And we get to the semi-final and I'm like tearing it up and like doing good. Then I get to the final, I end up scoring in the final, hitting the crossbar, and we won in penalties. And then what were you gonna say?
Yeah, just on that, did football help you in that sense, Aid? I mean, you know, through that tough period, getting back and playing, you know, was it pivotal in, you know, turning things around for you?
Oh yeah. Honestly, like if it wasn't, like I always say to my parents, like soccer is the one thing that like brings me so much joy and happiness. Like it's like you just step on the field and like all my problems would go away.
Yeah.
So like,
and a lot of people say that, don't they? A lot of people say that, and it's like, you know, it's easy for them to say because they've never had anything happen.
Like it sounds so cliche, but it's like, it sounds so cliche, but like honestly, it's that like it's the truth. Like without that, like I don't even think I'll be alive today because like I was going through so much stuff and it was so hard for me to overcome. But like, so then I ended up the next year. It was hard for me because like Sydney Olympic, me and my friend Stefan used to travel to training together every day. And then the next year, Olympic wanted me to go there again. And I said, I went there for like a week and I said, no, I can't do this. I was crying back and forward towards training sessions. It got too hard. So I ended up parting ways with them. And one of my good friends, Michael Uricalo, he's a well-renowned coach. He ended up signing at Apia, and he wanted to bring me over, so I went there. And like that was just the game changer that year. Like I won Golden Boot, National Player of the Year for under 20s. So like I don't know, like it was through my friend passing away, like I just had to put that energy into something.
Yeah.
And I think that was like what drove me so hard that next year.
And I think this is like imperative because, you know, you often see in a lot of cases where people become successful, there's a pivotal moment, whether it's from a footballing point of view or from its life point of view, that sort of spurs you on to say, right, I need to get serious. And like through that adversity, you managed to, you know, obviously become National Player of the Year and stuff like that, which is no mean feat by any stretch of the imagination. But had that not happened, do you think, you know, had things not worked out the way they did, do you think you would have gone on to achieve what you achieved there or not?
Like, I don't know, because at that time, like I was really like spiraling downhill. And like for me, the best decision I ever made was going to Apia. Like that's one decision that I'm so glad I made, because obviously that changed my life, was going there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously gave me the opportunity for where I am today.
Yeah.
So
just
like,
on
I don't know if like where my life would have been if I didn't get all those achievements and stuff. But like, I don't know if I would, like, I know I'd still be playing soccer, because that's like, that's like, I couldn't see my life without soccer. Like, even when I retire, I want to do something to do with soccer.
mm-hmm.
You know, helping kids like that have been in my situation.
Yeah.
Helping kids that have go through hardship in their lives, because some kids don't have the guidance that I had. Like, I had my mum. Like, I'd be crying in my room at 4 a.m, and my mum would be by my side, like, you know, patting me, telling me it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So some kids don't have that. So like, I think like I think in the future, like, I really want to help kids like that don't have that guidance.
Yeah, and we'll come on to that later, because I want to talk to you about what your future goals are on and off the pitch.
Yeah.
But so when in and amongst all this, when does America come into the picture? Like, what was it a hard decision? How did it come about? Is it something that you looked into for a while?
It was a really hard decision, because the ego comes in. I got offered my first grade contract after that year,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I had to toss and turn. I had to say, am I going to play first grade and do something in Australia, or do I want to experience something different overseas? So like I had a long chat with my parents, and I just said, like, really, I thought after the year that I had at Apia, I was going to get maybe some A-League offers, some youth A-League offers, but I didn't. I set my bar high, but like, I think after the year that I had, like, it was nearly deservable. So I said to my parents, I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna go to America, and I ended up coming to America. And the first year was tough, like the change of tempo in the game, like playing with players that weren't at the level that I expected. Like, they physically they were strong, but like, just mentally, like, it feels like they're steps behind. Like, you would turn, and I would like turn, because obviously playing with kids in Sydney, they're a lot more technical, I think. And like, they would know where you want to, like, where you're going to play the ball before you even turn.
Mm-hmm.
So like, sometimes I'd be turning with the ball and trying to play through ball in for the wingers, and they would, like, I'd look and they'd be standing next to me. And so that was definitely hard. And I think that cost me a lot of game time, and I didn't get as much game time as I wanted.
Yeah, I wanted
And
to go into this specifically, like, obviously, because you had such a good, sophomore season, which we'll go into a second. So the first sort of question is, Eastern Florida State coming for you, and that's where you eventually go. Why Eastern Florida State? And the second one, really, I would, like, from a footballing point of view, do you feel like you had to adjust in terms of changing your game to suit the American style?
So Eastern Florida State, that was my first offer, and I just said to my mom, I'm just gonna take it. Like, I'm not gonna hesitate. And like, obviously, I did research. The assistant coach was Australian, Nick Robinson. So that sort of, like, me and him spoke a lot. So, and obviously, like, Florida, they had they have a good history as well. Like, for junior colleges, obviously they haven't won a national title, but they're always like
up there
somewhere in a national tournament and stuff like that. So, I decided to go there, and like, adapting to soccer, it was hard. Like, the heat came into play.
Even from Australia, was it just a different type of heat?
Yeah, yeah, it was just a different type of heat. But like, I got so used to it. Then in the next summer, I stayed and I played for Jacksonville Armada, and the heat wasn't even a problem. Like, and it was summertime. So, but in my freshman season in fall, like, I scored goals, but I don't think they were in important games where I needed to score.
Mm-hmm.
Like I scored a penalty in the semi-final at the tournament, a goal in the first game of the tournament. But prior to that, like I had 9 goals and 4 assists. But I just think that for me, they weren't important goals, and I think that's where. And I didn't take my chances
Well,
as I did the next year.
yeah, this is what I want to come into, because obviously, you know, your first season, not bad for it, you know, a freshman in terms of you playing at a high standard at, you know, Eastern Florida State. You know, you record 9 goals, 4 assists. It's respectable by, you know, many people's means. But then the second season, your sophomore year, things just sort of, you take things to the next level. So, you know, in terms of
Yeah,
your goals, you moved up to 16 goals, right, in your sophomore year?
yeah,
Yeah, and obviously with that, you know, you get awarded, you know, All American second team, I believe. You know, we'll go into the, you know, the NJCAA National Scholar bit later on when we talk about more of the education. But so what changed for you there, Aid? Did you just have a sit and talk with yourself and say, you know, like you say, you need to start taking more chances? Did anything like click
yeah.
mentally in that season? What happened?
I think I sort of put a lot of pressure on myself, and I was just training a lot more, practicing on my finishing. But I think like for me, the one thing I like is pressure, and so I would put a lot of pressure on myself. Obviously, too much pressure can't be good sometimes, but I think that pressure like pushed me to do better and better. And like in the first game of the season, I think it was our first game of the season. It was in Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
and I said I have to leave Baltimore with at least 3 goals because we're versing Monroe and Essex, and
Yeah.
it was our first 2 games. So I said I need to leave. Um, I think it was that. No, sorry, it was our second and third game. We versed Morton College, and I scored 2 goals in that first game. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, we're going to Baltimore. I need to come back with at least 3 goals. The first game, I ended up scoring a hat trick, and then we versed Monroe the next day,
Yeah.
and I ended up scoring a double against Monroe. So I think like just setting like a bar for myself every game, like what I needed to do.
Mm.
Like I would say, obviously certain games you're not gonna have that. Oh yeah, I can score a hat trick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like against Monroe in the final, I never said to myself I'm gonna score a hat trick today. Like I just said to myself, I need to do my job and I need to do it at the best that I can today. That's it,
Yeah.
because it's the final.
I,
But I think that's sort of what changed me as a player, was just setting that bar and like always trying to do a bit better than.
than last year.
Yeah,
It's interesting because I spoke to Lorne Bickley the other day. Now Lorne finished you know, top in the nation for goals at D2 at Wilmington last year, and you know, obviously striker as well. And he came up with the same, you know, conclusion. He set himself goals, and like you said, they were achievable in the
yeah,
sense that, you know, like you say, you set yourself targets based upon your opponents and things like that. So it's interesting. Do you think the biggest change for you then was from a mental point of view? Do you think, you know, physically and
yeah.
from a footballing point of view, you were pretty much the same going into your sophomore year, but it was just that mental change?
Well, I think mentally was like a lot of it, but also physically. Like for some reason, I watched that Game Changer thing, and I started that vegetarian diet,
Did you
and
go full vegan
actually,
or vegetarian? Just
nah, just vegetarian. I
yeah,
could no way I could do vegan,
yeah,
and I actually like I did it for like 2-3 months, and like I was doing it when I was at the national tournament as well,
yeah,
and it actually helped me. So like I never thought like being vegetarian would like work for me, considering like I like to eat my meat and stuff like that.
yeah,
But like, and physically I cut down a lot of fat, like, so like a lot of it, what like it was a lot to do mentally, but physically, like obviously that's an important factor too. Like I was going to the gym like at least once or twice a day,
yeah.
eating good. and like doing the extras. I was like me and one of my to have. You always need people around you that want to succeed too. So
Mm. And do you think on that as well? So for guys, you know, looking to go down the American route or whatever, you know, watching this video, things like nutrition, you know, you probably, like you say, you probably ate fairly well before you went out to America,
yeah,
you know, physicality wise, you know, you're probably in decent shape. But do you think it taught you a lot in those regards, the minor details to sort of reach that next level in terms of,
yeah. No, actually, like I really did because, like, obviously, nutrition doesn't just help you physically. Like, mentally, I was in such a good headspace. Like, I was happy, you know. So
yeah,
it taught me so much, like how much like the small things affect the big things. So, like, I was actually really glad that I did that,
yeah.
and like, I want to start it again, but with this lockdown, it's a bit hard.
Yeah, yeah. And just on that aid as well, obviously you did very well in the classroom as well. You know, mentioned earlier they got NJCAA, you know, Scholar Athlete of the Year, and your GPA as a whole is a 4.1. I should know this really, shouldn't I? 3.9?
I think it's 3.93. Yeah, yeah,
3.93.
3.93.
Sorry, that I
Come
know.
on, James.
I know I
I'll
got
take
it.
I'll take four though. I'll take four.
But just talk about that as well, mate. Obviously, you know, speaking with you and knowing you personally, obviously you take your education very, very seriously. So just talk about
Yeah,
how much, you know, you had to adjust from that point of view, you know, coming over from Australia.
yeah. Like I think for junior college players, I feel like it's easier at school, but it's harder to adapt getting back into school
Hmm.
because like a lot of us have reasons why we haven't been at school and why we took the gap years. And I think not going to school for 2 years, like, and then jumping back into it, like it was hard, like getting used to it. Like obviously, because I graduated in 2015, so I got to Eastern Florida in 2018. So like nearly, I had like, because I graduated late October, so like two years out of school. Like I didn't really do much schoolwork in that time that I wasn't
Hmm.
like in school. So like it was hard, like adapting to that. But I guess you just need a routine and you got to stay regimented. Like, you know, some of us would wake up like in the first semester. I remember waking up at 6 in the morning sometimes just to do homework. Like
Hmm.
it's just the small things that matter. But I mean, having your stuff done like you know appropriate time is the best thing to do because I leaving at last minute
Yeah.
and getting caught cheating like a lot of times that happens like a lot of boys plagiarize and get caught cheating. So
Right.
like I mean you're better off like honestly you're better off because some schools don't take cheating lightly and like they'll just get rid of you. Like a lot of boys got caught in my team and like luckily like obviously like, we do well for the school and
Hmm.
we don't mean to do that like out of you know bad nature like we're just so caught up in soccer. A lot of the boys are so caught up in soccer, so like you know they a lot of them don't take school as seriously as soccer, so they don't care. But I think it's so important like school
Yeah.
because you know you just never know what's going to happen and like soccer's a short career and you always need something to fall back on.
Absolutely, yeah. And just on that, you know, the team was successful, obviously reaching the national final in your sophomore season. So, what, from a team aspect, what made you successful? Do you think?
Honestly, we were the most bonded team I've I've ever come across. Like it was just like I've never ever been in a team with like that type of family like nature. Like
Hmm.
it was just I me and Abdul, my roommate, would go to like be in our bed at like 6 o'clock, just sitting down on our beds, and all of a sudden, seven of our teammates would be in our room, sitting there, talking, playing PlayStation. Like that, we were always around each other. So I think that brought us so close, and like they're my family now. Like the boys in the team, like I love them. I'll never forget that group of boys because like you don't realize how a bond off the field affects the bond on the field. Like me and Lai would, like, we had our fallouts, like, and we didn't talk, and that affected on the field. But then me and him, like, became so close, and at training we would be doing 1-2s between like 5 players. Like, it's just
Yeah, I
like
think
knowing it's so important, like, to just be on each other's wavelength, and
yeah.
you know, like, you need to learn your teammates on the field and off the field.
And
So
I think this is one of the unique aspects of like the college soccer route, because I spoke to a load of boys that play back in the UK. When you're playing at semi-professional level or a high level from a youth point of view, you're meeting up twice a week to practice, playing once a week. You don't really get that,
yeah,
do you? It's not the same until you're exposed to that.
yeah,
Like you say, you're not only playing together, you're training together, you're eating together, you're hanging out together, you're probably going
yeah,
out and partying if you get into any of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's great. It's
It-
a great point.
yeah. So, like, I think just like that, living how we live together, and like the sacrifices that we made for each other, like,
Hmm.
is what brought us together as a team. And like, obviously you can't take away the level of quality like that we had in our team. We had one of the fastest players I've ever played with, Levante. Like, I mean, like, players like that just make things easier, and like, he
Yeah.
made things easier for me, so I made things easier for him. So when it's just like, when you're on that level together, just like, it all starts to click, and I think that's what happened. Like, it all started to click.
So off the back of that, obviously being at a junior college, what do you think are the advantages of going down the junior college route? Do you think if you'd gone into a bit, you're committed to the University of Las Vegas for your junior and senior year, but do you think you would have been able to make that jump before, straight from Australia, or did you think you needed that time and you needed the junior college experience?
I think I could have jumped to that level, but there's just something I like about the junior college system, the like the bond that you have with the boys, like, versing different level of players. Like, it sort of gets you more excited to go to the D1 level, because you're playing like all these teams that aren't at the best level, and you got coaches watching you all the time, because obviously you need to go somewhere after junior college. And I think, like, that, for me, that's like the most exciting thing, is just knowing that coaches are watching you all the time. And like, I personally like the junior college transfer thing, because I don't know, like, you could be in D1 in your freshman and sophomore year, and like, not play minutes. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to always be playing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to like a junior college, when you're in your sophomore year, like, you're most likely going to play, and maybe you might not play in your freshman year. So 1 year not playing is better than going to like D1 and literally sitting out the whole time. You might get redshirted at D1, because obviously the money thing, like, is like, the scholarship amount in D1 is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, junior college really got me ready, and like, more excited to go across to the NCAA.
Brilliant. And obviously off the back of his success both individually and as a team, sort of just tell guys what the transfer process is like. Obviously you mentioned schools are looking at you and you're in communication, but how did you find that side of it?
Very, very stressful. Very stressful. Nah. At the end, it gets stressful. Like, when it comes down to like 2 schools, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, this one's better in this, and then the soccer's better here, but the living's better here. So it's like, it's hard. But at the start, like, me and the boys loved it. Like, the fact that like coaches are watching us all the time, and you know, I, it's just like, it's a good feeling. But like, it gets tough. Like, always speaking to new coaches. It's like the same routine.
Yeah.
like when you answer the phone. But like, I guess you really got to go with your gut. And I feel like the team that wants you the most, that is the most important thing. Where you're going to be happy is the most important thing. Not, oh, I'm going to be at a big conference and a
Yeah,
big school, because that necessarily doesn't mean you're going to play. Doesn't mean the coach is going to want you. So I think the feeling for me, I got a bit lost in the process, like, because it was long. Like, obviously, it's been going on since November, like when I started speaking to coaches, November to like now. And I guess like when you're at home, I was at home in December trying to answer calls like with coaches, and like that, like the time difference, waking up. But I think just like a tip would be not to get lost in like your ego, because
yeah.
I sort of got lost in the ego.
I want to ask you about this because obviously a big part of it for you having conversations outside of this is your relationship with a coach. And one of my questions to you that I've written down here is what should guys consider when whether it's going in for your freshman year or transferring like you did, what's important about choosing the right school, and I think
Well,
well,
yeah, for me, I just like feeling wanted by the coach is the number one thing for me. Like, if he wants you to come in and be his guy, then that's like the coach obviously is gonna you if you get along with the coach and overall happiness. Because I don't know players that are unhappy and play good. Like, I've never met a player that's unhappy and play good. Like, I saw at junior college, boys were unhappy and they weren't playing good.
how do you
My
know that though?
first year, I was unhappy. I
How do
was
you know you're going to be happy?
I, like just that feeling when you get the good vibe from the coach. If you think you can live in those conditions,
Mm-hmm.
like obviously some schools are in the middle of nowhere. If you're a city boy and trying to live out there, do you think that you'll be happy there? Do you think you'll get along with the boys in the team? Like stuff like that. Like, it's the small things that you really got to look at. And that's what I started to see at the end is, oh, well, just because this is a big conference, does that mean the coach wants me that much? Or does that mean I can live in the freezing cold for the next 2 years? So
Yeah.
like but all the little things like you start to see at the end. And I just for me personally, I just went off where I would be happy. I believe I'll be happy. And like, if soccer's not going good, will I still be happy in that place? Like, is the academics still going to be
Yeah.
good for me in that place?
Mm-hmm. And you think you're going to be happy playing Division 1 soccer in Las Vegas? Shame on you, eh? It's terrible life, isn't it? But just on that, Aid,
I
go
was
on.
waiting for that. I was waiting for that.
I was going to say, what makes you think you'll be happy in Las Vegas? But anyway, just on that, do you want to just sort of tell people sort of where we came into it? Obviously, I contacted you and we sort of went from there. But
Yeah.
guys that are at the level, obviously you had all these accolades behind you, had a fantastic season, but why it is so important to get help during the transfer process?
Yeah. So like, obviously I was with the agency prior to that. I didn't feel like I was getting I didn't feel like I was getting as much help as I should. And I just didn't feel like the offers were coming in. So like, I spoke with my parents a few times and I said like, look, I think I need to find someone else to help me, because like, I just like, I would get coaches saying to me like, why haven't you found the team yet? You scored all these goals, your GPA is this, you're scholar athlete of the year. And I just think like, with the right people guiding you and pushing you and helping you, like, that is when things start to go good. And obviously, like, me and you spoke, and like, I decided to come to you guys, and like the next morning I had 15 offers. Like I had coaches calling me when I was like lying down in bed. Like, I remember the morning, like, I think it was not the morning after, the next morning,
Morning after that,
I
yeah.
was literally on the phone, hang up, on the phone, hang up, on the phone, hang up. And they were all serious about me too, like which was important. Like it wasn't just like no joke, like not just random coaches reaching out, like good teams, like ready to put money into me, you know. So I think that was like coming to you guys was so important for me, and thank you guys obviously for all the help that you have done.
Don't be silly, but yeah, being, you know, I went through the JUCO route myself, and I know it can be, you know, it is a stressful situation because you're so comfortable in the environment you're in, and then all of a sudden things have to change and you have to sort of move to that next level. But luckily, like you say, I think just surrounding yourself with the right people, looking for help is very important. It can just make that process a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so obviously we're happy now. You're committed to the University of Las Vegas, as we touched on. So what excites you about this next opportunity, Aedon? What are you looking forward to at UNLV?
The thing with me is I'm excited to like be that average team, but I want to be that like
the underdog,
the best of. Yeah, I want to be the underdogs, but I want to be the obviously UNLV has a good history. You know, they've made national tournaments, but I want to be like at Eastern Florida. No men's team ever made a national final. We were the first team to make the final. So like I want to be that team to break all the records and do all those things. So like, you know, being at the best team, it's not always as fun as being at the average team, because, you know, being at the best team, you're expected to get there. Being at the average team, it's, you know, I think you have more drive when you're at the average team, because, you know, you want to do special things and be with a special group of people. So, you know, the coach is awesome. Rich I love him. You know, we haven't even met yet. We get along so good. So I'm just super excited for Las Vegas.
Absolutely. And sort of, we touched on it a bit earlier. So what does the future hold for you, Wade? Obviously looking at, you know, your next move to Las Vegas, but also after that as well, what do you, on and off the field, what are your goals and aspirations?
Well, personally, I do still want to reach the professional level. I think it's still achievable for me, and that's part of the reason why I chose the American route. Was, you know, like Europe, your time sort of cuts out. Like when you're like 21, they stop looking at you. 20, so I think that's my first option. Like I still want to try reach that level. It's been a dream of mine since I was a kid. So, and you know, if that doesn't work, I want to look at getting into like maybe coaching at like universities and stuff. I think it would be amazing coaching at like big schools, and like that would be like awesome. So, you know, and I think I just spoke with my advisor the other day, and I think I'm doing a minor in real estate and a major in either business or economics. So like, you know, my dad's in like the building industry. So like I've always said to him, like, maybe we can start developing properties and stuff like that. So that's always interested me as well.
Yeah, and I think we touched on this, you know, prior to recording when we were talking. But how important do you think that is to have aspirations outside of football as well as, you know, within football? We talked about the American route and how it offers that, you know, that plan B if things don't work out. But how important do you think that is?
Yeah, no, it's very important, because you never, like I said, you never know what's going to happen. And I think it's always good to set more than one goal. I think it's good to not just say, I want to be a professional soccer player. Like for me, I've always said to my parents, I want to like be an entrepreneur. So I want to open up like several businesses and risk my money and make profits, you know? So like that, yeah. So, you know, I think being an entrepreneur in life is important. Like say, yeah, I want to be a professional soccer player. Yeah, I want to, you know, be a property developer. I want to be a coach. Like life's all about experimenting. I think that like it's important to always have different options. So if one fails, you're not falling flat on your ass, and
Mm-hmm.
the world, you feel like the world hates you and you can't do anything. So I think it's always good to just always have different options, because like I never really wanted to do like a real estate minor, but it came up on the list, and I said, you know what, like me and my dad have always talked about doing this, so
Mm-hmm.
it would be good for me to get. So I just think knowing other options is good as well
Yeah, and keeping an
outside of
open mind
football,
with that.
because obviously football isn't forever. So
I think you're right. I think keeping an open mind is very important, and a lot of people have said that, whether it's from
yeah,
a football point of view or, the educational side as well. You're absolutely right. So, sort of concluding here, Ed, guys that are thinking about going down this route, what advice do you give to them? And we'll start with from a footballing point of view, to be as successful as possible and reach the top level. What should guys be doing? What should guys be implementing, and how can they get there really?
well, I think just on the field, be yourself and play how you play. Don't adapt to how they play. For me, I tried to adapt and it didn't work. So that was another thing that helped me my sophomore year, was not adapting to how they played, but bettering how I played. So they had to adapt to what I was doing. So
Mm,
I think for the footballing perspective, like just just be yourself on the field. Always better yourself. Don't don't think about what other players are doing, and just always focus on yourself. Obviously, you're going to be in a team environment and a family environment, so you're going to have to get used to different living conditions, like not being around your family as much. So I think staying active and always focusing on like the things that are going to be positive in your life is very important. Not focusing on negative, because like focusing on negative when you're away from your family it just takes you down a bad path. Like you always have to try stay focused and try stay positive mentally when you're here.
mm-hmm.
But for the soccer aspect, like just like always like being focused and doing the extras. Like you have the facilities around you, so make the most of them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna be the best that you want, the best possible person of yourself. So I think definitely like take advantage of like the situation that you're in, because people would die to be in your situation. Some schools have amazing facilities, they have amazing trainers. You can go do a gym session, and then some schools, you can go in the hot tub or the ice bath. Like
Yeah.
just it's just taking advantage of the like what you have, because like it's unbelievable some places. Like you wouldn't even find that professional facilities what some schools have. So I think just keep your head screwed on as well, because there is a lot of distractions in college,
Mm-hmm.
and just stay true to yourself.
No,
That's my best advice.
No, I think that's definitely warranted, and like you say, it's obviously helped you achieve what you've achieved so far. But still, like you said, we're not done yet. Still another big 2 years ahead of you, if not your biggest
Yeah,
2 years
yeah,
yet.
exactly.
So we'll be
Yeah,
keeping our eyes, firmly
yeah,
on you down that. But no, hey, thanks for giving up your time anyway, mate. And I'm sure a lot of guys will find this very, interesting, and it'll help them as they look to go into the, down the soccer route. So thanks, Aid.
yeah. No, thank you so much for having me, James, and thank you for everything as well.
No problem, mate.